haven't had a chance to talk with Mike Purzycki since the Delaware primary, which is why we decided to invite him here to be our first person this week. Welcome.
Thanks very much.
So you're the Democratic candidate for Wilmington Mayor. We should note that you do have a Republican opponent, which is Robert Martin, and also independent Steve Washington. Are you still hitting the campaign trail hard at all?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little different than it was before, but we're still campaigning. We're not taking anything for granted, and I would just say it's got a different feel. It doesn't have the same kind of feel as an 8-way primary did.
Okay.
Which is a pretty unique feeling, I'd say.
I'm sure. Any more thought on how you would bring the city of Wilmington together?
Yep, exactly. People talk about bringing people together as if we need to have a social event to bring people together. I think the way we bring people together is by sharing prosperity and creating economic vitality in our poorest neighborhoods, so people share values and they come together naturally. What struck me more than anything else about my campaigning was going through neighborhoods where I felt, in some cases, people shouldn't even be living in some of the dwellings that I was knocking on doors, and I saw poverty up close in a way that was very meaningful to me, and it's just something I'm committed to addressing. In fact, that's when I think about the urgencies of what we have to do in the city. The first image that comes to my mind are dealing with poverty, the young kids who are affected by poverty, schools, crime in those neighborhoods. That's the picture. Frankly, the image has nothing to do with some of the more settled parts of the city.
Well, let's address that. You won actually just by under 3,000 votes, which says a lot.
300 votes. Well, I got under 3,000.
Yeah,
that's correct.
3,000.
I won by 234 votes, so it was very tight.
So it says a lot about your hard work, but some people in the black community have said they still haven't seen you in the neighborhood. You said you've been in the neighborhood. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say to you that, when we campaigned, our strategy was to do as well as we could possibly do on the west side of town, and campaign as well in other portions of the city. But it was always going to be a harder slog in some of these places where I wasn't well known, where perhaps I wasn't as trusted, simply because they're people that didn't know me for a long time. I think earning trust is a long-term proposition. Anybody thinks you can knock on a door, say, "Hi, how are you? I'm a really good guy, please vote for me." It doesn't work that way. And so, disappointing to me, I still think some of that is out there. So I just am committed to being the best mayor I can possibly be. I've got to win, but I really believe that I'm going to convince people that looking at what I've done with my life, private, personal, professional, I think people are going to see that I'm the right person for this job.
Okay. Have you reached out to any of your opponents to get support from your voters? Okay.
Yeah, we've been meeting with them. I don't think there's any official commitment, but I'm not sure I've really asked yet. So I think those kinds of things will happen. I think you're going to see the Democratic Party come together and support not only my candidacy, but others who went through primaries as well. Okay.
Well, Mayor Dennis Williams have said that his biggest mistake was saying that he could fix crime overnight. Do you have any regrets? Have you said anything on the campaign trail that you actually regret?
I don't think so. I often at the opposite, I think I found myself saying during the campaign, I think I'm the only one who is running who understands how difficult this job is going to be. Maybe because I have the highest aspirations, or at least I think I had very high aspirations, expectations for what can be done. So I know it's going to be a difficult job. I think events overtook the mayor. I think the mayor's actually done a much better job than the public understands. He's done some very good things that I don't think were ever presented in a cohesive communication so that the public could see all the good things that are going on. So I intend to build on them. Obviously we'll have differences about management style and that kind of thing, but I think that there's an awful lot good to build on in our city.
Okay. Well, can I ask you about your relationship with not social media, but Delaware media outlets? Do you have a good one?
With Delaware media outlets?
Yes.
and they would be, let's see, this show and the News Journal.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what else?
Yeah, that's true. And WDEO, of course. But I
Sure.
want to ask you about the editorial by Karn Phillips. He said he called you pretty much arrogant. What were your thoughts?
So I want to tell you a story.
Okay.
So a friend of mine, so I didn't get very upset about that. This is his right to do this. And you know, I was very happy to have won. And I read that. It kind of surprised me, but I wasn't as upset as perhaps some of my supporters were. And somebody went out to another friend and solicited a letter to the editor in rebuttal to it. And the individual who was solicited said, I think you're making a big thing about it. Don't worry about it. It's going to go over. Besides, there are a lot of people who think Mike's arrogant. So I kind of chuckled about it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I talked to some folks a week ago about being humble about this experience. And I said, and I know people don't look at me and say, there's a humble guy. I mean, I know that, but that's that's kind of the way I guess I carry myself. But I find people who meet me will say at the end of a meeting, you know, you're really a much nicer person than I thought you'd be.
Okay,
So
well,
maybe
fair.
that's just the way I come across to people.
I have that problem too. A few seconds left. Is there something about the way the Riverfront was put together that you can actually transfer to any of the Wilmington's
Oh,
neighborhoods?
absolutely. I think, you know, we had a view that you can't develop the Riverfront unless you get rid of the blight. So, you know, people like beautiful places, and nobody likes to be around something that's an eyesore. And so I think you have to go into some of our neighborhoods and some of our commercial zones where we can really develop more, and we have to remove the blight. And so it's hard to get somebody to say, I want to make a big $10 million investment right next to a neighborhood or a place that is really pretty run down, because it suggests that this is an area that's not well. And so if you get rid of that and you attend to the details, parks and public places, people come there and they're more attracted to it. And then I think it's a foundation you can build on. And I think that goes, frankly, I think that goes into our neighborhoods as well. These kids get up every morning and walk to school, if they walk to school, past blight, past half burned down houses, past vacant houses that are not taken care of. And I think they internalize that. And I think that's wrong. That's not the way you want to build a city.
Okay, well, thanks so much for being here. Of course, we will be calling you again. Once again, Mike Purzycki is the Democratic candidate for Wilmington Mayor, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Michelle.